Good morning. I it's after Christmas now, so I am finally getting back into reading. I've had a lot to do this December, mostly my own fault. I decided that I wanted to knit every single present I was going to give to my family. So there was that, and then we just have a lot of other stuff going on. But I'm back now, and I wanted to start reading the Ballad of Never After, which is the second book to Stephanie Garber's Once Upon a Broken Heart series. Is there an actual name for that series? I don't know, but I started reading this last night. I'm only up to, I don't have a bookmark, I should probably get one, but I'm only up to chapter 5, and basically what's happened is Evangeline is being silly, and she at the end of the first book, she found out that that Jax was basically the one to poison Apollo, so she's mad at him. And in the first couple of chapters, she is trying to the first chapter, she's trying to open the locked door that has a symbol or a statue of a wolf in it, inside Wolf Hall, and no one's been able to open it for centuries, basically. So she's like, oh, I know that I'm the prophecy. I know that if I just prick my finger, use my blood to open it and say open please, it'll open for me. And then maybe in there, because I think she thinks it's a library, and so she is thinking that if she can open it, she can find a cure for Apollo without making the whole Valerie Arch prophecy come true. So she opens it, and it opens finally, and then she goes in there and it's like really dusty or something, and then there is an archway, and there's like two statues of angels. One is sad and one is angry, and they have the swords like kind of like crossing over kind of thing. And so then she like tries to open that, and then it turns out that that's the Valerie Arch. So she's freaking out because she's like, oh, I didn't want to open this. This is I can't believe I did this. Like, I can't believe, like, this is probably why Jax was like smirking at me when he found out that I was going to open this door. And then there's the librarian, which I don't remember I don't remember where the librarian came from, but there's a librarian who told her about this room and how to open it and stuff, and he's like, basically, you need to find these stones, and these stones are the exact same stones that Jax is also looking for and needing her help to look for. So that happened, and so she has another idea. She's like, oh, I'm gonna go to Lala, the other fate that we met in the first book, and like ask her if she can have, like, she has any idea of how to cure Apollo, because she cured me in the last book, so hopefully, who knows, like, she might be able to help. So she goes to Lala, and then it turns out Lala is having this long engagement, because she got engaged and she's really happy about it. And so Evangeline tells her everything about Jax and what he did and stuff like that, and Lala's like, you should actually open the Valerie Arch, like, it's not what you think. And so there's two different versions of the Valerie Arch. There's like the version where it's actually locking something dangerous in, or it's locking something like a treasure or something. And so Evangeline's like, oh, maybe Lala just thinks it's treasure, so that's why she's telling me that I should open it. So then she gets back from seeing Lala, and then she goes to see Apollo like every single day. because he's like locked up in this room. No one's really supposed to know that he's there. And she gives him a kiss because she keeps thinking that it might work, but it doesn't. And his eyes are open, but he like is like glazed over, like his heart is beating really, really slowly, and he's not responsive at all. And then Jax turns up, and Jax is like, oh, I'm gonna give you until midnight to do what I want, basically. And then Evangeline's like, oh no, I don't know what you're gonna threaten me with, but I'm not gonna fall for it, basically. And so she turns around, and as she's turning around, Apollo's arm grabs her wrist like so hard that she can't let go, and she doesn't understand what's happening, and Apollo's eyes are turning red. And so Jax is trying to help her like loosen Apollo's grip, because he's like kind of crushing her bones, basically. So Jax cuts his hand. I don't know if he cuts his hand off or whatever, but he cuts Apollo's hand, and then Evangeline's arm, you know, loosens from the grip, but then her other arm is like bleeding, and so it's almost like this exact same slash that Apollo had from Jax. And so she's like, oh, I don't know what is happening, I don't understand. And Apollo's like, I think someone's possessed him and you now. Like, it's almost like they're both linked or something.
Okay, so this is the same curse as Apollo, I'm assuming, where he's cursed to hunt down the girl that he loves.
Alright, so a lot more has happened in the book. So after we find out that there is technically a curse that's put on both Evangeline and Apollo, so whatever happens to one of them happens to the other, we finally meet the distant relative of Apollo and Tiberius, who is supposedly going to take over the throne. And at first it seemed like the whole entrance of this new Prince Lucian, is really shifty. So Evangeline, so apparently like Evangeline gets an invitation to meet Prince Lucian, and she walks into the room, and it turns out that it's Luke, her first love from the first book, the whole catalyst of this whole thing. So obviously he's a vampire, because that's kind of what happened to him in the last book, and he kind of goes to attack Evangeline, and obviously Jax saves her. And then Mary's soul is there, and Evangeline's like, oh, I don't know if I should tell her that she shouldn't go in there. I don't remember what happens to her, but after that, one of the guards, I forgot his name, but it's basically a guard that she trusts with Apollo's body, because Apollo's kind of like in a coma, so he's not really dead, but the whole kingdom thinks that he's dead. So one of the guards is like, the guard that she's trusts is like, oh, I need to talk to you, Evangeline, and she's like, I can't deal with any more of this today, honestly. So then she goes out to the gardens, and then it turns out, so she's like going out to the gardens, and her and Jax have this like kind of annoying conversation about like Jax being like trying to convince her that, you know, she needs to open the Valerie Arch or whatever. Not really, they just kind of have a conversation, and then all of a sudden Apollo is alive, like out of his coma, and Evangeline is like, oh my god, you're alive, like wanting to go after him, and Apollo is like, no, don't come any closer, and Jax behind her is like, I think you should go back inside. And then she's like, I don't understand what's happening, like how are you alive, basically, and why are you telling me not to get any closer? And then all of a sudden Apollo like his eyes turned red again and starts attacking her with a bow and arrow. She gets hit in the shoulder and the thigh, and she's like kind of like bleeding out, and she's passing out. And as she's passing out, she, in her dream state or whatever, she is thinking about the fairy tale, the Ballad of the Archer and the Fox, and basically we learn that whatever this curse that Apollo is in, or whoever put this curse on him, the curse is basically the same curse as that fairy tale story that she's known all her life, because in that story the archer of the story is cursed to hunt down the woman that he loves, because it turns out that he was hired to hunt down this fox in the forest, but then he comes across this maiden lady, and it turns out that this lady can turn into a fox, and so he's kind of cursed to kill the one he loves, basically. So that's kind of basically the curse that Apollo is on. So anyway, so she's bleeding out. Oh, the other thing to do with that story, so she keeps mentioning that every time her mum tries to tell her that story, no one really knows the end of it, and so she's been trying to find copies of the book to figure out what the ending is, but every time she finds a copy of the book, the end pages are like empty or blank. And that links in with the whole myth or the prophecy or the story of the Valerie Arch. Every time someone tries to talk to her about like why she should open it and everything like that, they kind of, it's almost like they get some sort of spell on them that prevents them from like speaking whatever they were about to say. So like when the librarian was trying to tell her about it, he kind of like his voice or whatever like ends up in smoke, and that's kind of the same with Lala. Like she couldn't really talk about the Valerie Arch with her, and so yeah, like that has something to do with whatever this spell is as well, I think. So anyway, so she is bleeding out, and she can feel two different sets of arms around her. One of them is cold, who she thinks is Jax, and the other one is warm. And when Jax was holding her, she could hear him say, "Evangeline, I'm so sorry." So then she wakes up, and it turns out Jax has brought her to Chaos, the vampire slash fate of assassin and spies or whatever. And so Jax has brought her to him so that he or someone, like one of his vampires, can turn her into a vampire, because vampire venom heals wounds. And so as long as she doesn't feed while she's a changeling, she can come back to being a human, and she'll be healed. So that's kind of like Jax's plan. And so she spends one night and she's like struggling not to feed, and she's like desiring Jax and everything like that. And then we cut to the chapter 11 is the next morning, and she wakes up and she's human again. So that's basically where I'm up to. I am gonna switch to listening to this on audio, because I have a lot of stuff that I need to do. Like I mentioned in the beginning of this video, December was a very it has been a very stressful month. There's a lot going on top of like Christmas stuff. Yeah, so I have to do a lot of like being on my computer and admin-y kind of thing.
I'm wondering if that's an Easter egg for his like reasoning for carrying the apples, because remember in the first book how Lala was saying that the reason why she makes wedding dresses is to, I think she said like to ease the cravings of getting married because she's the unwed bride. I wonder if that's kind of the same craving thing when it comes to Jax. Okay, so this is basically what's happened. After she is, after it's the next day and she's no longer a changeling, she goes outside, she tries to escape because she's like, I feel like I shouldn't go back to Wolf Hall because that's where Apollo will be, but at the same time, I don't want to be stuck here with Chaos and Jax because I'm still not wanting to help Jax open the Valerie Arch. We also find out that when she was being protected by Chaos the night before, he is also wanting her to open the Valerie Arch so that he can take off his helm because he's cursed to never be able to take that off, basically. So that happened, and then when she's outside and she's like trudging through the forest and everything like that, she's like really cold. Apollo finds her and tries to hunt her down, and Jax is there to save her, and then so then she ends up sort of going back to the vampires, and basically she agrees to help both Jax and Chaos to find the stones. Apparently there are like 3 stones that's supposed to be found, and then Chaos shows her this library full of the books that he's collected over the years to figure out how to find the stones. We also find out that she is not the only key. There's been a key before her, but that key lady, I guess it was a lady, died after finding one of the stones, the stone for luck, I think. And we get that explanation when they get into Chaos's like study or whatever, and Evangeline is like drawn to this particular stone, and it turns out that that is the stone, one of the Valerie Arch stones for luck, and it kind of like compels her, kind of thing. It compels a lot of people apparently. So then she spends days in Chaos's library trying to figure out like how to find the stone and everything like that, because Chaos says that she will be drawn to it because she is the key. She just needs to get close enough to it. So she gets an idea. All this time as well, while she's in the library, like Jax is missing. I don't know where Jax went. He just left her a note and is like, I'll be back. Don't get killed, basically. So then she gets a really dumb idea, and she wants to visit Tiberius in prison to ask him where she could find the stones, because she's like, if I tell him that his brother is alive, he might be wanting to help me, and like the issue with his brother, he might want to help me. So she goes to Tiberius and she shows Tiberius that, Apollo's cursed with the Archer curse, and they're both like, there is also a mirror curse put on both of them, so whatever happens to Evangeline happens to Apollo. And Tiberius is like, I still don't want you to destroy the whole North. Like, I think that both you and Apollo should sacrifice yourself for the greater good, basically, because that's what he believes. So that didn't work, and then she is walking back to the Chaos's dungeon or whatever, and Luke is there, and Luke is inviting her to a party, and this is Lala's party, because we find out earlier that Lala is having a really long engagement, because she knows that she's the unwed bride, so she knows that the marriage will never actually happen, so she just wants like a really long engagement. And the invitation says the words mirth, something, and marriage, and Mirth is one of the names of the stone that's supposed to be connected to the Valley Arch in some way. I just finished the first part of this book. I don't remember where I left off last time because that was 2 days ago, because Saturday I was really busy because I had plans for New Year's Eve, but then I ended up getting really sick yesterday at New Year's Eve, and like I had like a weird 24-hour stomach bug, and I just could not get out of bed. Basically, I couldn't keep anything down. Anyway, I'm feeling a lot better now. But yeah, so Evangeline is about to go to this engagement party between Lala and the Slaughterwood family. I forgot, Slaughter something family. And all this time while she's been doing all this, like because the reason why she wants to go to this engagement party is because she reckons that the Mirth stone is going to be there, because all of the big families are all going to be there, and she reckons that one of them has the Mirth stone, because she saw the word Mirth, but it was like smudged out in the gossip kind of paper person. He was writing about it. Anyway, so Jax is back, and Jax is willing to take her, but Jax is like, we can't tell Chaos because Chaos hates this family, because they are the reason we're all in this mess, basically. So we don't know why that is, because if you remember when she was going through Chaos's library with all the books and stuff, the Slaughterwood book, family book, was nowhere to be found. Like, there was no book on them. And then if you also remember, when she was reading about the Merrywood family, she dropped the book because Chaos came in, and then when Chaos left, the book disappeared. So she doesn't know if Chaos took it or if the book just kind of disappeared. So while she's packing, this book ended up on the end of her bed, and as we know, the books in this in the North change all the time. They change their stories, they change the words and things like that. So this book changed its title to The Ballad of the Archer and the Fox, and she's like, that's really weird. So she looked inside it, and it's not actually the story of the Merrywood family, and it's also not the story of the Archer and the Fox. It's like a portrait book. It's got all these pictures of people in it, and one of them is a portrait of 3 men, and one of these men look exactly like Jax, and she remembers that these 3 were the Merrywood brothers or something. So one of them was something Valor, and the other one, I can't remember their names, but so she is trying to figure out. So I think what they're getting at is that Jax could be one of the original archers. So I don't know if that's true yet, because Jax comes in right after she reads that. The book kind of disappears, like it's all blank, and then and Jax is like, I think you know that all the stories change and they lie to you and everything like that, but his hands are like pale and shaking, I think, or something. So yeah, I don't know. Okay, so here's what's happened so far. So they traveled to the Slaughterwood family home or castle to go to the engagement party, and as they go there, they have Jax and Evangeline have a conversation, and Jax actually tells her what actually happened to everyone, like what the Slaughterwood
family did. So basically those portraits were true that Evangeline saw, because what happened was Vengeance Slaughterwood was betrothed, or like there was an arranged marriage between Vengeance Slaughterwood and Aurora Valor when Aurora was born, because their parents were really good friends. And the Valors are obviously like kings and queens. Like the Aurora is a princess because her parents are kings and queens, but the Slaughterwood and the Merrywood, I think it's Merrywood, I don't know why I can never remember that name, but the Slaughterwood and the Merrywood, I'm just gonna call it that, are not like, they're noblemen, but they are like they're lords. They're just lords, I think. And then there was Castor Valor, but we still don't know anything about the picture of the archer, which is clear now that it could be the picture that looks exactly like Jack's. Anyway, so Vengeance Slaughterwood was supposed to marry Aurora Valor, but then but Aurora tried to like break off this engagement since she was born, because she and Lyric Merrywood were in love. So they were kind of like in secret, being together in secret. And so on the night of Aurora's wedding, she ran away, and that's how Vengeance Slaughterwood found out about the affair, I guess, between Lyric and Aurora. And then Jack said he lived up to his name. So that's what happened to that. That's what happened to the Merrywood family. And then what also happened was he ended up killing, the Vengeance Slaughterwood ended up killing Castor Valor, because Castor was the one that knew about this affair and tried to warn Lyric about this, but nevertheless, like, Vengeance was just like, I'm gonna kill you as well because you knew about it. But the archer didn't know anything about it, I think, because Jax didn't say anything about the archer. So because he said that the archer was no one, like he wasn't a nobleman. So anyway, they go to the party and they meet Lala, and Lala's showing Evangeline and Jax their rooms, and then Evangeline is inside her bedroom trying to get changed for dinner, and she hears a conversation, like a whispered conversation between Lala and Jax, and she finds out from this conversation, because she kind of can only get like bits and pieces, and she finds out that when Jax disappeared, Jax was actually here trying to find the cure for the archer. And she could hear Lala being like, oh, I told you this last week, like there is no cure for this. I don't know what to do. And Jax is like, she could die, and Lala's like, no, you won't let her die. And then at the very end, she's like, how many more stones do you need to find? And Jax is like, we need 3. And then Lala says, I hope you brought enough apples. So that like proves my theory that the apple is the thing that he uses to not, I don't know, not kiss people and kill them, basically. Something else I really want to say that I still really enjoy about this series is Evangeline feels like the same person. Usually I find that as the book series go on, the characters change too drastically to the point where it's kind of unbelievable. But I really like how this author has sort of like gradually changed her into not really a different person, but she's sort of maturing. She's not as naive anymore, but she is like, you can still, she still says multiple times that like she wants to, like she understands that, you know, like for example, the whole fate with Lala and how she is always the unwed bride and everything like that, but she's so happy about like being engaged and all that. She's like in a world of magic and prophecies and locked doors and magical whatever kingdoms and stuff like that. Surely people can find their happily ever after, and that is kind of just has always been the essence of Evangeline Fox as a character, and I really like that she still holds on to that, even though you can tell that she is really struggling with that childhood belief that she's always had. It's been tested multiple times, and she does need to learn to sort of be a little bit more realistic. There is still this part of her that wants to hold on to that, even though everything around her in reality isn't living up to what she's thinking. Does that make sense? Like, it's like, I don't know, I think that's why I really like her as a character, because you can tell that she understands that she needs to be a little bit more realistic, and you can tell that she understands that life is disappointing her time and time again, but she still kind of has this like this hope, and she's not ready to let go of this hope. She's not all of a sudden just being like, yeah, whatever, like, you know, things aren't never gonna be happily ever after, you know. Like she kind of holds on to that, even though you can tell that she's struggling to hold on to that. There's still that like level of hope that she holds on to, and I find that very realistic for her as a character and her like character growth, I guess. So yeah, that's, I really like that about her. The other thing I do want to say about this book is it is definitely amping up, not really amping up, but it's slowly burning their kind of connection and their relationship slightly, which I really like. I like how we barely got anything in the first book, and like we're starting to see like a little bit more in this, but it's because like it works because their relationship or connection or whatever is built on how comfortable they are with each other. So like it doesn't make sense if they had a romance in the very beginning, because they weren't comfortable with each other, and then there was that whole betrayal at the very end. And so this whole book is like her still being angry at him, but needing, like, they both need to work together kind of thing. And I'm really this is the kind of romance that I really like. So that night, like the night of the dinner or whatever, Evangeline gets this idea from one of the books that she brought that like changes and whatever, and she gets an idea to search for Glendora Slaughterwood's coffin, because she gets this idea from a portrait that Glendora might have had one of the Mirthstones buried with her. So she finds where Glendora is buried, because she like found this tunnel earlier in the night when she was trying to follow Jax, because she thought that Jax was going to going to kill one of the Darling sisters. And she gets there, and Luke is there like following her, because he's just kind of everywhere apparently. And she turns out like the body's like pretty much ashes, and she finds a necklace, and she takes it, and she's like, oh, maybe like it's Mirth, but like maybe maybe it's because I just have a hopeful disposition or something and it's not like working on me. But I was very like possessive about it or something, which I don't know how true that is. I didn't think that that would be true, but we don't know yet. Anyway, so the next day is a costume party and she's getting dressed and she's like waiting for Jax to pick her up. So she goes over to Jax's room and she overhears this conversation between Jax and Lala. First of all, Jax is like dressed as the archer, what I'm assuming is dressed as the archer, and she's dressed as the fox. Anyway, so Lala is like, the scandal sheets are out and it says that that Christoph Neitlinger has told basically everyone that Evangeline is at this party, and also there's a wanted poster because Tiberius has escaped his prison tower cell thing. So Lala's like, you and Evangeline need to get out of here because Tiberius is going to be here, and Apollo is probably going to be with him because Apollo will know where she is and he's cursed to kill her. And Jax is like, well, whose fault is that? And Lala's like, oh, well, she wasn't going to open the arch otherwise. So now Evangeline is thinking, and I, like, as readers, we're also thinking that Lala was the person that put the curse on Apollo, the archer's curse on Apollo, to hunt down Evangeline so that Evangeline will have the push to open the arch. And I just feel so bad for Evangeline. She just feels so like defeated and betrayed. Like, she already didn't trust Jax and now she thought that she could trust Lala, but now obviously she thinks that she can't because she reckons that Lala was the one to put the curse. And the mirth stone that's around her neck, because she didn't tell Jax that that was what she took, she's like, oh, I'm devastated, so it must not be the mirth stone. And I just feel so bad for her. Okay. This book is so hard to like, because I'm trying not to stop every single time to like recap everything that happened, but I feel like so much happens that I need to do this. So Evangeline is upset and she goes down to the costume party and Jax is grabbing her and being like, we gotta go. And she's like, no, I don't trust you. I heard everything that you and Lala were talking about. And then she runs out of the ballroom and she runs into Petra, who is the moonlight haired girl that we meet in at this party. And no one knows who she is, but Jax is like, she looks familiar, but like Jax is also just like, you need to stay away from her because I don't like her, but doesn't tell her why, because I don't think he knows why. Maybe, I don't know, maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But anyway, so Petra is like trying to get her out of the ballroom, trying to get her somewhere. And then Evangeline is like, I thought you like never went to this party, like how do you know all these secret passageways and stuff like that? And she's like, I lied. And Petra was kind of like stumbling and was just like, I don't know why I said that, kind of thing. And it turns out the necklace, the stone that she found on Glendora's coffin, like body, I guess, was not the mirth stone or the youth stone, but actually the truth stone. So Petra is like telling her that turns out that Petra was the previous key, because it turns out that that hair, that moonlight blue hair, is a wig, and she actually has the same hair as Evangeline. And Petra says that she worked with Chaos to find the luck stone, and Petra actually has the youth stone, which is I guess what kept her alive all this time. And apparently she worked with Chaos, and Chaos kept the luck stone safe, but he didn't keep her safe. And so what she did after she found out what happens when you put all 4 stones together is she faked her death and kept the youth stone for herself, kind of thing. And then right as she was about to tell what happens when you put the stones together. They like have some sort of this fight, and then Evangeline stabs her. As Evangeline is trying to pack, because Jax sees the scene with Evangeline and Petra, and she's trying to pack, Luke comes in, and then all of a sudden Evangeline's back is like really sore and she can't move. So Jax ends up there, and then and Luke is there as well, and Jax is like, you need to find Chaos and tell him to find Apollo, keep him safe, and make sure that his wounds are healed, because obviously they're both linked. I feel so bad. This book is stressing me out. It's been a couple of days again, just because I can't just sit here and read, unfortunately. But basically Jax takes her to this place. It was through that area that was like really cold when they were going to the Slaughterwood party. They passed through this sort of area that felt really bleak and old and whatever. So they went back there, but they went through this sort of forest, and everything became like magical and bright and green and colorful again. And Jax explains, so Jax is like tending to her wounds, and she wakes up the next day, and she's, you know, she's still got bandages on her back and stuff, but they're eating, and we learn a couple of things. So as she was laying in the bed being like cared for, basically, she notices these names that little kids would make on the wood carving, and it said, what did it say? It said, let me just go back. The names on the wood says Aurora, Lyric, Castor, Jax. And then she was like surprised that Jax's name was on there. But then after that, there was one year where there was an extra name on there, and it said the Archer. So that got me thinking. I was like, well, is Jax the Archer then? I'm not sure. But anyway, so then she passes out after that, and then when she wakes up, she's like snooping around, because it's kind of like a tavern. Oh, Jax says that this place is called the Hollow, and it's kind of like an inn. Like there's an inn on top of like a tavern underneath, where people can sit, but there's obviously like no one there. And so while she's snooping around, she sees that on one of the walls there was 2 names that was carved out, and it said Aurora plus Jax. And then Jax sneaks up on her and is like, oh, are you having fun snooping? And she asks him about that, because last night Jax said that he was never friends with Aurora. He was only friends with Lyric and Castor. So that's interesting. And then when they're eating, she asks him stuff again. Oh, also, like, she has the truth stone on her neck, like around her neck, that she took from Glendora's coffin, and Jax doesn't know what it is. Like Jax is like, oh, what's that necklace, like did Luke give that to you, kind of thing, like in like this kind of jealous way. And she's surprised that Jax doesn't know what it is. So but he like wants to grab it, and so she kind of distracts him, and it's just like, oh, I'm hungry. And then while they're eating, she asks him about this place, and we find out that this used to be his home. It used to be this place that magic kind of and curses and stuff like that wouldn't work here. So if you came here, it just, like, any curse or whatever that you're on doesn't work. And so she pointed out that she hadn't seen him eat an apple since he got here, which is really, really interesting. So that like kind of proves my theory, I guess, that the apple is kind of like his way of suppressing his fate, kind of like what his curse for being a fate tells him to do, which is to like kiss people and like kill them, so, or like even kiss Evangeline. I don't know if it's specifically Evangeline or if he just like tries to not kiss anyone and kill them. But yeah, so that is what we find out. And also I didn't realize this, but because Evangeline asks him like, when was the last time you came here, and he said that it was the right after he became a fate. I didn't read the first series that this series is slightly connected to. It's not really connected to. You don't have to read the Caraval series, but apparently it makes a lot of sense with Jax's character in the third book of that series. But I didn't realize that fates were once human, like they were kind of made and not born, I guess. So yeah, that's interesting. We still don't know if Jax is the Archer. I think that's just kind of gonna be the bigger kind of mystery of this book. I still think he is, but now I'm kind of like doubting myself, so who knows. Anyway, so right after that, Jax has this narrowing look in his eyes, and he eyes the stone around her neck, and he finally realizes that that is the truth stone. I guess because he was like, why am I telling Evangeline all of this? I don't usually tell her all of this. And he snatches it from her, and then he's walking out, and she can't chase him because she's injured still, but she's like, I still want to ask one more question. Hopefully the truth stone will work. And she asks him like, why do you want to open the Valerie Arch? And then he's like gritting his teeth, and he has to stop because I guess the stone makes you like have to answer a question truthfully, I guess. And he says that I don't want to open the archery, the Valerie Arch at all. So she falls asleep, and I almost knocked my coffee over. She falls asleep, and she has this weird dream where she meets this handsome stranger, and he's sort of like toying with her, kind of giving her like little bits of clues, and he says something along the lines of, you're just like her. And she's like who? And he says, right before she wakes up, he says his first fox, like alluding to Jax. So I guess that is confirmation that Jax is the Archer. So like he was, anyway. So she wakes up and Jax is nowhere to be found. She snoops around the tavern and everything, and she finds Aurora's diary. Like it seems like a teenage diary kind of thing, and she reads all of the passages, and she obviously reads about how she doesn't want to marry Vengeance Slaughterwood, and then she says, right at the end of the entry, she says something along the lines of like mentioning Lala. So we find out from that diary entry that Lala's brother is Lyric Merrywood, and that made me think, I'm a little bit confused because I thought that Jax was a Merrywood, but I guess Jax isn't a Merrywood, or maybe he is a Merrywood. I don't know. I know that he was friends with Castor and Lyric. Castor and Aurora are siblings. Lyric and Aurora are in love. Lala is Lyric's sister. Is Jax related to Lala as well because he's a Merrywood? I don't know. But if that's the case, then I have a theory that the Merrywood family aren't actually dead, but they are, they got turned into fates or something like that, because she says, like, I don't know if this is like Stephanie Garber saying some like just writing, but Evangeline says something along the lines of the fates of the Marywood were horrific or something, and that kind of made me think like, oh, did the Marywood family just all turn into Fates if Fates were originally humans? Yeah, so that's my theory, but I don't quite know, because I'm a little bit confused, because if Jax is a nobody, how did he become friends with everyone? And if he doesn't want, so like, if Lala wants to open the Valerie Arch for something to do with her family, because she's Lyric Marywood's sister, then why doesn't Jax want to open the Valerie Arch, you know? Anyway, so she's like sitting in the tavern. It's been 2 days. Jax hasn't shown up, but then there's this dragon that like this cute little dragon creature that shows up, and she feeds it and stuff like that. Like, it seems really harmless, and then all of a sudden Jax shows up and he's like hurt. He's like gripping the door, and his cape falls down, and it reveals that his shoulder is like all bleeding and hurt and stuff. Evangeline dreams again, and the handsome stranger is there, and then Lala is also there, and Lala's like, oh, I just wanted to apologize for the whole Apollo mirror curse, and not mirror curse, Archer curse. You are really my friend. I'm really sorry I did that. And she's like, why did you do that? And she's like, so the reason, it's such a convoluted story, but Lala is a Fate, and she is known as the unwed bride, as we find out from the first book. The story goes that the unwed bride is always left at the altar whenever like she's about to get married, but Lala is saying that that's technically not true. She's the one that always sort of like breaks it off, because she can't stop loving this one person that she loved from when she was a child, when she was a human, I think. And then this person that she loved is apparently can turn into a giant dragon, and like, that's why like she's part of the legend as well. Like, that's why at the costume party there were like dragons and treasures and stuff like that. And so when she learned that Evangeline can open the arch, she thinks that her love, her one true love, is inside that arch. So like, that's kind of why she did all of this. And then she apologizes, and they hug and whatever, and then she says that you need to get away from Jax, because Jax has the Mirth Stone, and that's clouding his judgment, and you may think that you are like really safe in this hollow. But then she mentions that this hollow is Jax's dream or something, and like, she needs to get away because the Mirth Stone is affecting her as well, which is why like she isn't that worried, and she's like happy and whatever. And then right before, because she's like, you need to get away from Jax before ... like she comes out of the dream, and it's the next chapter. Okay, so what's happened is she wakes up from the dream, and then she slowly gets up, because she slept next to Jax, and she tries to search his trousers for the stone, like Lala said, because Lala says that he has the Mirth Stone, but she couldn't find it. And so she's kind of like, oh, I don't know if this is true, like but there is like this inkling of feeling in the back of her head that like, yeah, this could just all be the Mirth Stone, and he doesn't actually feel anything for her. So she's like a little bit sad after waking up and stuff like that, and then she goes downstairs, and this little dragon creature thing is like trying to get at the clock, because there's this like magical clock in the tavern downstairs where it instead of telling the time, it tells the like what food is being dished out, I guess. So like whatever food is being dished out is like magically just like appears on the tables. So she's like, oh, here, I'll help you, to the little dragon, and she like carries it, and then she looks at this treasure thing that this dragon was trying to get, and she realizes that that is the mirth stone. And so she's really upset. She's like, oh, okay, so yeah, Lala is correct, like the mirth stone is here, and it is all because of the mirth stone. So she's having breakfast, and Jax comes down, and he's like a little bit shy and whatever, and then she has to tell him. She's like, this isn't, what you're feeling isn't true, like it's because of the mirth stone. And Jax's face is so hurt by it. Like they have this discussion, and she's like, you know, like this isn't real, Apollo's still out there, and he's a little bit angry. And then yeah, and then Evangeline puts the mirth stone, she grabs the mirth stone and puts it in the iron bowl or something, like some sort of iron thing to protect it, because she noticed that Chaos put the luck stone inside an iron box, and that seems to work, so that the magic doesn't affect you in any way. So yeah. Okay, I think I'm ready to read the last parts of this book. Hopefully I'll finish it today. I'm up to chapter 41, which is also part 3 of this book. Also, you like my little bookmark? I saw it and I thought it was really cute because it just says so far, and it's really simple, but I thought it was really cute, so I bought it. The last clip you saw of me reading this book was 4 days ago. It was on Thursday. Today's Monday. I had to do a couple of things that evening, and then on the Friday I had to go up into the city and look for my wedding dress. So I didn't do any reading then, because I could have brought it in the car with me, but I didn't want to like finish the book and not be able to sort of vlog my reaction or something while I was in the car. I was also just like really stressed. I was really stressed. So yeah, so that happened. Found my wedding dress. Now it's, and then Saturday I was just really tired and I didn't want to read, and then Sunday I was also really tired. So yeah, I wanted a little bit of a break and a breather. This is making me really sad. But we do get confirmation that Jax is the original Archer. I'm a little bit upset. It's so sad. I knew that part 3 was gonna be kind of where all the action happens. This is where we find out everything that everyone has ever said to her and what they actually mean, and everything that Evangeline has sort of suspected. So we go back from the Hollow. Jax is annoyed. Evangeline is a little bit upset that Jax is annoyed, and they go back to the vampire castle, and they have to wait until night because it's like daytime, so they have to wait until night for the Chaos to wake up, basically, because he's a vampire. And she's in the room, and Apollo comes up to her, and he's like, oh, it's okay, I'm not being possessed right now, so I can be with you. But then in the middle of them making out or whatever, he starts attacking her and choking her. Luckily she remembers the like there's like this button or something where if you like next to the bed where you press it and a cage comes down. So she scrambles out off the bed and presses the button. Apollo is like trapped in this cage. Jax is there, and Jax is annoyed and angry that Apollo is trying to hurt Evangeline. And then they have this conversation, and it's like, it's clear that like Jax feels something for Evangeline, but he doesn't really want to go through with it, kind of thing, because he just reckons that the Archer curse is gonna activate and like she's gonna die, or the Prince of Hearts curse is gonna activate and she's gonna die. And he tells her that the reason why he wants the stones is so he can go back in time and change things with Donatella. And Evangeline is like, but you don't even love her, like why do you like want to change and be with someone that you don't even love? And Evangeline thinks that it's because Jax thinks that that's his only chance at love, kind of thing. And they have this really painful conversation, and then so that night that night like Chaos comes to her room, and then they go to open the Valerie Arch, and she's really, you know, thinking about Jax, and is really, oh, the other thing that we find out is if Jax goes back in time to alter what happened with him and Donatella, she won't remember him, but he will remember her. But he says that he'll just make sure that their paths never cross, but she won't remember him, and she's really upset about that. And then anyway, so her and Chaos go to open the Valerie Arch. Turns out inside the Valerie Arch is the Valors. So the whole family, Aurora, Honora, and Wulfric. And then we find out that Chaos is actually Castor Valor. And so the monster in the myth that everyone is talking about, that they think that the monster in the myth is inside the arch, is actually Castor. So I'm assuming that Castor was turned into a vampire by the Valors. I don't know, it's not really clear yet. Like my theory is that he was turned into a vampire because the Slaughterwoods got mad, or like started killing everyone and killed Castor or something. And so in order to save him, maybe Honora turned, because she's like the greatest healer or something, so maybe Honora turned him into a vampire, but like maybe put the helm on him so that he didn't actually kill people and eat people. I think I don't quite understand that yet, but anyway, so that happens, and Evangeline is like peeking through the door, and Evangeline is the only human there, and then Castor kind of kills her, and Jax is there, and Jax is telling her to wake up and come back to him, and it's so sad. It's so sad. Oh man, I'm so upset, because I know that yes, Evangeline is dead, but I think that the next part, which is called The End, which is really sick, but I think that the next part, she's gonna wake up, but Jax will have already, this is my theory, Jax will have already activated the stones and gone back in time. So I have a feeling that she will be healed and she will be alive, but she won't remember him, and her life would have been different or something.
Okay, yeah, I was right. So Castor did die by the Vengeance Slaughterwood, and then his mum tried to bring him back. See, I watched the Vampire Diaries.
Oh man, that's so sad. Like, I want to pick up the third book straight away, but at the same time, I'm a bit scared. I don't know what's gonna happen in the third book. So, oh god, okay, so Jax takes Evangeline's body and takes the stones, and Honora Valor is like, what are you doing? And Jax is like, oh, I'm gonna stop your son from killing Evangeline. And Honor is like, it's not you, like time, like that's a big deal. That is someone's soul, that's someone's life that you're like stopping, like changing the fate of. Basically, time will take something else of equal value. And Jax says there is nothing of equal value basically than Evangeline's life. And then the next section, the end section, we go back to, this is why I hate time travel kind of books, but I think the way this was done was not as bad. If it went on for much longer, I would have gotten a little bit annoyed, but this isn't as bad. So we go back in time, and she's waiting for, like, she just had that painful conversation with Jax in his room, and so she's waiting for Chaos to knock on the door, and Chaos knocks on the door, and they go to the Valley Arch. But so last time Jax didn't go. This time Jax comes up with a girl, and he's like, oh, I thought, oh, it's okay, Chaos, like I thought I'd bring her just so because you haven't fed in a while, like while when your helm gets lifted, you know, he's a little snack for you basically. And Chaos is like, no, I don't want her to be there, I can control myself. And Evangeline is also like hurt, obviously, and she's like, no, I don't want her either, like I don't want you to kill some other human. And then so anyway, so she doesn't come along, and they both go, and Castor is inside the Valley Arch, or Chaos, Castor, Chaos, whatever. And Evangeline and Jax have this, like, because he's like really mean to her, he's like, oh, you've done your part now, you can leave. And Evangeline is like, why are you being so mean to me? And he's like, he hasn't fed in years, thousands of years, you're the only human here, like we need to, you know, or like, well, I guess he's also a human, I don't know, because that's the part that confuses me. So Jax convinces, like, Jax has, like, is being mean to her, and she's really hurt, and she leaves luckily. And then while she's walking down, she gets the same realization that she did previously, where she thinks that, like, love will save Jax's curse or something. So she goes back, runs up, goes back to the Valley Arch, but there was no one there. The stones are still there. So I don't know. So did Jax, so I'm assuming that Jax actually did use the stones to save Evangeline's life, I guess. So the stones are still there, and then there's like blood on the angels, on the stone angels, and that got me worried that, like, Jax is dead. Well, we don't know anything about Jax because Jax doesn't come up anymore. So anyway, so she's like, really, I think she's thinking the same thing as me. She's like, oh, is Jax, like, what happened? Because Jax is also a human. He's a fate, but he's also a human. And then Apollo comes out, and Apollo is like, some woman saved me, I'm not cursed anymore. But then Apollo touches her head and like erases her memories, and she's really upset, and she's telling him to stop, so she doesn't remember anything. And then the epilogue is her waking up. She doesn't remember anything, but she's really upset, and her voice is really hoarse because she remembers, like, she feels like she's been crying like a lot. And then a man comes into the oh, her back hurts as well, and a man comes into her room, and she's like, I'm so sorry, but I don't know who you are. And he smiles and he says, I'm your husband, and I won't let anything happen to you. I don't know, I'm so upset. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's gonna happen in the third book, but I have it, which is good. I just don't know if I'm ready to jump into the third book. Anyway, I definitely like this book a whole lot more than the first book. I felt like the first book was just like, this had more action, this had more consequence. And like I said, I think I mentioned it in the very beginning, but like, you can tell that Evangeline is like more mature and more realistic about life, I guess. But especially towards the end, like, Stephanie Garber reminds you of who Evangeline really is, and who she is someone who is very hopeful and refuses to let these like really horrible things that's happened in her life sort of be the end of the story, as she puts it in this fairy tale world. And I think that's still my favorite part about this story and this book. I think her as a character and her progression, but also like her learning to grow up a little bit, but also still trying really hard to stick to her values and her beliefs, is still my favorite part about this book. So yeah, I don't know what's gonna happen at the end. I really enjoyed this one. This is a really good one. This is a really good one. I really like it.